on live, and we're being recorded for future viewing, and we're on YouTube. Anytime you want to watch us, you can pull up a meeting and watch us on YouTube. So where we're going to recognize the retirees for this year. Superintendent, should we come down? Yeah? Come on.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is always one of the really nice times of year and a time when we can recognize our retirees from the school district. And it's so great to see so many of them that were able to join us here today, and their families and their friends and their colleagues who have worked with them. And I know that we have a couple folks who weren't able to be with us, but we do want to take a few moments and share a little bit about them and their service to the students and the community of the Lunenburg Public Schools. It's really my honor to recognize the retirees this evening. They join a very prestigious group of retired Lunenburg Public School employees. When added together, these employees have 176 years of service to our students, our schools, and community. It is my hope that the benefit our children derive from their dedication, their compassion, and hard work is repaid in kind with long, happy, and healthy retirements, sprinkled with memories of success-filled careers. On behalf of our school community, I extend to each of them our heartfelt thanks and sincere appreciation for their service to the Lunenburg Public Schools. So we have 6 of the retirees who are here with us today, and as per our tradition, we start with those who have the most years of service to our Lunenburg Public School students, and that would be, we'll start with Miss Lisa Stone, who's most recently at the Lunenburg Primary School. Lisa, if you want to come join me up here. Mrs. Stone served as a substitute in our school starting in 1982 and was appointed by the Lunenburg School Committee at that time on January 5th, 1983 as a Chapter 1 math tutor. Chapter 1, of course, was the precursor to the Title I program. And of other interesting note is Ms. Stone actually replaced one of our other retirees in that Title I math position. Sharon Mccullough had that position, and she moved on to something else. Mrs. Stone later moved on to a Chapter 1 reading teacher, and then in the fall of 1984, she was appointed as a special needs teaching assistant in the preschool program. She then went to a half-time teacher in July 1987, which is when she began her teaching career, being appointed as a teacher. And then she served as also for the coordinator for the preschool grant. In 1990, she moved to the position of the preschool teacher and coordinator. Eventually, she returned to the kindergarten and was there until 2015 when she was appointed as a special education teacher, and she was working with the kindergarten students at that time. She served on a variety of task forces and committees, including the full-day kindergarten, curriculum committees, leadership team, the school council, professional development committee, the response to intervention team, and she also participated in many teaching candidate interviews, doing her part as a leader in the school. She's also always been a leader and a learner, and she herself has continued to take so many courses, including recently pursuing the Orton-Gillingham certification. And that was just recently prior to her switching to that position in order to work with students with reading difficulties full-time. Mrs. Stone is an early educator. She's passionate about students learning how to read. She's kind, gentle, compassionate, and understanding with children. In the words of one of her principals, and she had several, I think, She is ethical and courageous with regard to the education of students. Lisa indicated that her future plans were to use her Orton Gillingham training to tutor children in reading, continuing that assistance to our young people. And she hopes also to have more time to continue the renovations on her house, to read, to garden, to travel, visit sons and it, and just relax. Yeah. So, thank you, Lisa, for all you've done, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And I think down at the end. So each of our retirees has a certificate as well as a photo that the frame's inscribed for your dedication. We did take time to do our research, so we tried to put all the buildings that everybody worked in, picture them on your certificate. So congratulations once again.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Do you want to say anything, Lisa?
No. Really don't. Sorry about that. I'm tired of it. I think when you're here long enough, you listed all those things I did, and I think when you're here long enough, that's what happens. You end up doing just about everything.
That's right.
Thank you. I have really had a wonderful time. I've really, truly enjoyed working in Lunenburg.
Thank you. Okay. The next two individuals, Ms. Sandy Curley as well as Steve Kayajoinian, aren't able to be with us, but I would like to recognize them and give you some highlights of their careers as well. First, Mrs. Curley, with 28 years of service. She began her career in Lunenburg in August 1989 when she was appointed to the position of attendance clerk at Lunenburg High School. Ever since that first appointment, she's been providing support, encouragement, and when necessary, redirection to the members of our school community. A short year later, she was appointed to the high school's administrative secretary position, where many of her duties included organizing the graduation ceremonies as well as helping the principal. In many regards, Mrs. Curley wrote the book on how to do graduation at LHS. She participated on administrative search committees, she helped with multicultural festivals, and in 1998 she was appointed executive secretary to the superintendent. In 2006, I had the great opportunity to appoint Mrs. Curley as the school personnel services manager. She went on to receive her master's degree in professional licensure, and she was appointed as the school business manager later on. She is simultaneously the kindest and the toughest person you'll ever meet. Her compassion, like her extraordinary work ethic, is boundless. I frequently would receive emails from Mrs. Curley after midnight as she toiled away into the late hours to ensure that the needs of the personnel in the district were met. Her departure leaves a big space that will be difficult to fill. We will miss her sharp wit, her wonderful sense of humor, and a remarkable dedication and commitment. And her future plans are spending more time with her family, especially her two grandchildren. She wants to enjoy the simple pleasures such as reading, trying new recipes, knitting, and watching a movie without work bidding for her attention. She wants to continue to investigate her ancestry, including traveling to lands from which her ancestors immigrated. She wants to hike, explore the local countryside, previously only seen from her car window, and embrace the meaning of being a lifelong learner by pursuing opportunities to learn new things and step out of her comfort zone. To Sandy, our deepest appreciation, and if you would, a round of applause. Mr. Steve Kayajoinian, he's been a physical education teacher and coach for 27 years here in the district. Mr. Kayajoinian, or Coach K, as everyone knows him, started coaching and substituting in our schools in 1983, and in December that year was appointed as a special needs aide at the middle school. In the fall of 1990, he was hired as a part-time elementary physical education teacher assigned to the Thomas C. Passio School. Coach K has coached football, middle school cross country, and he's been the icon head coach for the Lady Knights track team since 1983. He was recognized as the MIAA Coach of the Year in 2006 and again in 2011 for the girls' spring track. He had a winning streak that went from 1987 to 2014, and since 1987, the girls' spring track team lost only 5 meets. His overall record indoor is 228 wins, 39 losses. Spring, 218 wins, 30 losses, and that's over his entire career. In spring, his spring track team has captured 26 league championships, 15 district championships, indoor 19 league championships, and 5 district championships. So those are the numbers when it comes to coaching, but we all know that the real truth and meaning behind all of those is this, the impact that he's had on so many young people as they were in the elementary school and learning those basic skills in physical education, and many young women have talked about Coach and the respect and appreciation they have for him. So Steve is definitely an educator and a coach. His dedication and commitment as an educator is also evident as we review the past 5 years of his career. This year, he came home to the elementary physical education program after working in every school in the district for the last 5 years. For a period of years in the spring, he'd step up to the plate in his assignment. He is a caring, unselfish individual who never failed to step forward on behalf of our students when called to do so. He even served as the athletic director several years ago when no qualified applicants were available to assume the position. His future plans, since he's planning to retire in October, he says, my plans are to continue coaching cross country and track next year, his 35th year of coaching track, join a gym and get back in shape, do some golfing, and spend a little time with family and friends. Coach K. Mrs. McCullough, Miss Sharon McCullough, who's been with our district for 23 years, been an 8th grade special educator for many of those years, but let's tell the story, okay? Sharon, when she wrote the wonderful letter of retirement to me, moved me to tears, but I also said, oh great, she wrote her a little overview. She was first hired by the Lunenburg Public Schools in 1980 as a Chapter 1 math teacher at the Thomas C. Passio School. Then she went to the high school as a special education tutor. At that time, she also served as a class advisor. After a few years in New Hampshire, she returned to Lunenburg as a special education teacher at Turkey Hill Middle School, where she remained until the 8th grade moved to LHS 5 years ago. And then last year, when the new co-located middle high school building opened, she co-taught ELA, math, history, reading, and life skills. She was instrumental in developing our first summer program for students and worked those summer programs for many years. She has coordinated the 8th grade trip to DC for many years, and she's taught a civics course to better prepare the students for that experience. She continued her professional development and was engaged in a variety of committees, including strategic planning, school advisory, and school councils, and task force work. She served as an IEP trainer. How fun does that get? So, she was committed to making a difference for students, from MCAS prep to life skills instruction. Mrs. McCullough has been there to meet her students' needs. She made an impression on their minds, but also on their hearts. Former students from past years continue to stop by her home just to catch up. So in retirement, Sharon tells us she plans to spend more time with her parents and grandchildren. 2 of her grandchildren live in Chicago. She's going to read and learn new things and do more quilting, knitting, gardening, home improvement, and decorating. She put etc., etc. by that too. There are several places she wants to visit, including a return trip to Tanzania. She's not planning to be bored. No, we will miss you. Congratulations.
I did want to say, because I was thinking about Coach K, I have an 8-year-old grandson that many of you know, and he thinks Coach K is the best, and he quotes him. Coach K tells him something in gym, he comes and he quotes him. And recently, from time to time, he's an 8-year-old boy.
Century in Britain, and that's coming up.
Fairly recently, he said, I want to be a gym coach. I said, you want to be a gym coach? He said, yeah, like Coach K. Well, I pretty much want to be Coach K. So, yeah, but thank you. I mean, I tell the students none of us could do this without great kids. And that's been the wonderful part of it, meeting so many different kids and so many, just the kids are the best. So thank you, Lexi.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations. Next up is Sue Diamantopoulos. There's Sue. With 20 years of service in the Lunenburg Public Schools. She began her service to students of Lunenburg as a substitute teacher in January 1996. Hired as a tutor in 97 and served at TCP and Turkey Hill at that point in time. You were appointed to the 3rd grade teaching position in 1999, and you've continued there, and you've followed the 3rd grade and their students from TCP to the primary school and now back to Turkey Hill. So all of those schools in your career, mostly 3rd grader, right, in terms of your teaching time. You've made many contributions to the schools, serving on a variety of committees. Some of them, project-based learning, the Power Block, the Great Books, community service learning. You served as a mentor to incoming teachers. She's remained engaged in her own learning, taking many graduate courses. Mrs. Diamantopoulos understood the importance of activities outside the school day and spent many hours with students after school, engaging through drama club and cooking as well. You were instrumental in the development of the Empty Bowls project, which raised thousands of dollars over the years. It was clear that Mrs. D enjoyed children and teaching and touching the future. The students were always overjoyed to see her dress up for those special days, and it was always such a pleasure to be in her classroom and feel the energy and engagement. Sue's future plans include relaxing and enjoying the summer while planning for an August wedding for their daughter Krista and Trista's fiance Tim, and she's looking forward to volunteering time in a pediatric ward, enjoying long hikes and bike rides, cross-country skiing, visiting friends and family around the U.S. and Europe, and maybe after traveling with my husband on the first of many trips in the fall to the lower Mississippi on a riverboat, I'll think about a part-time venture of some sort. So, going to be busy, it sounds like.
Thank you, Lexi. It's been a pleasure, an honor. Truly enjoyed all those 20 years. It doesn't seem possible, but they have come, and I thank everybody for the help and the trust with the children of Lunenburg. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Claudette Lachance, who's our primary school cafeteria manager this year with 20 years of service. Mrs. Lachance began as a substitute in the cafeterias in Lunenburg in 1995. In 1996, you were hired to the position of general worker in the cafeteria at TCP, and then in 1998, you moved on over to Turkey Hill Middle School. 2003, you were appointed to the baker's position. Remember those days when we used to have bakers in our cafeterias? The good old days. So for many years, she continued in the cafeteria there at TCP, but in Turkey Hill, in 2006, she went to the primary school. And in addition to the cafeteria, she worked as a senior aide in the extended day program for many years. This past year, she stepped up and stepped into the position of cafeteria manager at the primary school, where she's done just a wonderful job. She's known for always having a smile on her face and all the positive that she can. She always brings a bit of a joker to her interactions, and I recall in reviewing her file, I noted a memo from a prior food service manager asking the cafeteria staff if they'd be returning to work next year. And Mrs. Lachance checked the box that said she was planning to return, but then she added the following: unless Sue wins the lottery. So that's classic Claudette, always bringing us joy, and you will be missed by the students, your colleagues, and the faculty. Thank you for everything you've done. And her future plans are to enjoy life and her family. Congratulations. Thank you for all you've done. We have that little present for you. Move these. Mrs. Londa, Miss Joanne Londa, has been a classroom teacher with us for 16 years here in the district. But prior to that, Joanne actually, she started in 2001 with us as a classroom teacher, first grade, and that's where you've been. Joanne was also a first grade teacher on the Cape and taught at the Barnstable Montessori School as well prior to coming to Lunenburg. And I think many of us are aware that that was after also serving our country as a military wife for many years and being both in the States as well as overseas. So you've served so many in so many different ways, Joanne. As a mother and first grade teacher, she understood the need for students socially, emotionally, behaviorally, and academically. I often heard her as I entered her classroom, 1, 2, 3, good. I like the way you're ready on 3. Mrs. Londa understood the importance of keeping current and expanding her knowledge and practice. She did so through coursework and workshops focusing on reading, math, writing, and child development. She works closely with her team in the best interests of all their students. And last Tuesday, she was in attendance along with her teammates from 2006 at the Baccalaureate Service for the class of 2017. You can see teaching has a lasting impact. Her future plans include staying busy in retirement with part-time work, volunteering, travel, and spending more time with her family and friends. Joanne, thank you for all you've done for our school.
I just want to say that it's been a real pleasure working with all the children and the families in Lunenburg. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne. Yep. And Miss Maria Martin. Ms. Martin joined our schools in the fall of 2007 after subbing previously, and you also worked for 7 years at the Burbank Child Development Center. You've held your professional child care certificate since 1998, and you've participated in many workshops and classes, including our nonviolent crisis intervention, applied behavioral analysis classes. You have a special knack for working with our preschoolers, always kind, supportive, and patient. You work and play well with others, which is what you teach children. We are so grateful to the many ways that you have contributed to our classrooms at the school, as well as the entire district. And I know your future plans are to spend more time with your family. We wish you a lot of joy and happiness in that. So thank you for being with us. Thank you.
I just want to say it has been a true pleasure working at the Lunenburg Primary School. All the entire staff and all the children, it is just a great environment to go to every single morning. Thank you.
Thank you. So just a special thanks again to all our retirees, and congratulations to them and their families as they launch out in this new phase of their lives. We are so grateful for everything you've done for our students and wish you all the very best. Come back and see us again soon, okay? Thank you. We're going to give the retirees a chance to get on with their evenings, and then we'll go on with the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
That was a... Are you good?
I haven't signed any of them, so just, I'll
Take them down.
yeah, so do them that way, or whatever.
All right.
You can start them down here?
Yeah, that's probably
Yeah, go
better method
backwards.
than anyone.
Leaving water all over the place. I choked it down a couple times. So.
Yeah, I know you do. I have We good? We're good. Now we're going to open it up for public comment. Anything? No? Okay, it's the chair's report. So I'm just going to take a moment to recognize Bill and Kim Iannacci for all of the time they've invested in coordinating the A.J. Robbins Memorial Fieldhouse, which will get underway, I believe, this week or next week? Do we know?
I haven't heard the precise date yet.
Yeah, they've got their building certificate, so they will be beginning. And I just wanted to recognize all the hard work, time, and dedication to get all of that together. We also have the calendar, the dates on the calendar. Did everyone look at the dates on the calendar? Vaughn Marie, did you get those?
I did. I have one conflict, but
Okay.
do we want to talk about that now? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Which one?
The August 16th, I will be
15th?
out of town.
Isn't it the 9th?
August 16th.
We were doing 2 and 16.
We changed those.
Okay. Which
Yeah.
you said, oh, okay, this was
Okay.
the other one. Okay.
So the August 15th one?
16th.
16th.
If we did it on August 9th,
Could you do August 9th?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Do
you have
does that work for other people, August 9th? Or
And Meredith
does that
isn't here.
present a conflict?
I know I will be out August 2nd.
Jim is August 2nd.
Then do we go 9 and 23?
I know. Do we go back to
August
the 9 and
9th is okay
23?
with me.
Or do we just wait at this
Yeah.
point in time?
Shall we just wait for Meredith too?
Probably.
Because if we move, I was thinking, do we go 9 and 23? Because then that, would take care of that. But then if Meredith has conflicts.
Right. We're just, we'll wait, our way on vacation.
We'll just wait till the next meeting,
Okay.
okay? For Meredith. And that's all I had in my chair's report, didn't I? Yes,
think
that's
so.
it. That's all I had.
Yes.
So we have warrants to sign and approve, and we have a line item transfer.
We do. Mrs. Cooper, who helps us with the accounts and works closely with Mrs. Brochu here at Town Hall, identified several lines that needed some adjustment as we begin to close out this particular year. This is taking some funds that will be
put into lines where they're over the expenditures, or to use them to reduce the other lines. So under the school committee conference expenses, the original amount was $250, but there weren't any conference attendees this year, so we're recommending that line be taken down to zero at this point in time. Dues and meetings actually was overexpended by $407 for the school committee. I think the Mass Association of School Committees actually increased their fees after the budget had been set, and so we're recommending adding $407 to that line, bringing it up to a total of $4,907. Classified ads, we're able to reuse $157 against some other over expenditures. Same way with professional development in the high school, there was $100. The original budget was for $5,500, and there's $100 that will be reassigned. So they have spent at this point in the year and won't be spending any more, $5,400. Professional development in special ed actually needed an additional $100, and so that increased from $5,000 to $5,100. Library expenses was, the budget was set for $120. They needed $130 to close out, so that's being increased by $10. But elementary school library books is being decreased by $10 to address the $10 over expenditure in library expenses. Middle school social studies has $10 that's being apportioned to another line, so it goes down $10 in the original budget to $1,474. Health and Human Service Developments for the high school has a $1 adjustment that's being made down to $2,935. Middle school science requires an additional $10, bringing the total to $334 in that line. Physical education supplies needed another $1 in that line to close out the year, so it's $1,501. Special education tuitions public, there was actually nothing put in that line, but because of a placement where the particular placement was made, $13,538 needs to be put in that line, which started at zero. That funding is coming out of special ed tuitions private, which is being reduced from $581,345. It's being reduced by $24,303. So that new total is $557.42. And finally, collaborative tuitions is being increased from $74,189 to $84,954, a total increase of $10,765. So all of those pluses and minuses basically all take care of each other. So lines that needed a little extra received it, and we took the money from lines where the expenditures weren't needed to finish out the year and just moved it to lines where it was needed to close out. So all the lines will end up as zero by the end of the school year. So those are those particular line item transfers.
Do we have to vote on that? Just sign it?
Just sign it,
Okay.
yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
And I can answer any questions if...
Any questions, Dawn Marie? No? None?
No.
Okay.
We need to move to accept.
No, just sign it. Okay, and we don't have minutes?
We don't.
We don't have minutes to approve at this time. So we're on to the superintendent's report.
Well, we're at that time of year where everybody's racing towards a beautiful summer break, and certainly at the conclusion of a very fine school year. I want to commend everyone for just a beautiful graduation ceremony. It was very exciting. I did want to comment and thank everyone for coming out to the Baccalaureate Service, another wonderful service. I mentioned it when I was talking about Mrs. Londahl. The first grade teachers from 2006 were there. One of the teachers from 2006 was the keynote speaker. The clergy always do such a nice job with that service, and the class of 2017, I know, probably had more students attending that particular service than we've seen in probably since it was reestablished. It was just a very joyful night for everyone, followed by a really fantastic community awards evening as well on Thursday evening. So it was a great graduation week, and once again, I just want to thank everyone for all the work that goes into that, because it comes off running smoothly and going off without a hitch, but that's because of a lot of planning and preparation. Also, it's great Mr. Santry is here, and he returns from a week in D.C. with our 8th graders, another very successful trip as well, and everyone just really enjoyed that experience and learned a lot from it as well, and had a bit of fun along the way as well. It's always a really nice activity. We heard back from the Lifelong Learning Alpha at Fitchburg State University. We've been talking to the town about the use of TCP for those that saw our prior meeting, and at this time, Alpha says, they really feel like they want to honor our goal to utilize the new building and get as many of our citizens into the new building as possible, and so they're willing to accommodate that later afternoon start time for the classes they'll be offering, and that way those classes that they will be offering here the residents will be able to utilize the new building for those. So those will start 2:45 or later in the afternoon after school dismisses. I want to thank the town manager for her assistance as we were working through this. We had actually scheduled to go before the Board of Selectmen about it possibly being at TCP, but then Alpha said, after reviewing all of this, we'll just plan on a later than 2:45 start. So that's an update on that. Also, I wanted to let folks know that, our students have done some amazing productions this year, but we're still learning how to use this wonderful auditorium and all the technology that's in it. And one of the recommendations that I intend to make, we've talked to several members of the community. We have some names of folks who do this work for a living or have expertise in this area, is really looking at forming some kind of an advisory that would be charged by this committee next year, much like we did the Lifelong Learning Committee, which is continuing next year as well, to really develop a plan of action as well as identify consultants that can provide training and support and develop expertise not only within our schools, but perhaps for individuals from the community that might be interested in that, as well as making that opportunity available to our students, because at the end of the day, we want to provide those experiences to our students as they think about careers that might involve set design or lighting or acoustical kind of careers. So we feel that this will be a win-win-win, and we actualize the full capacity of that beautiful auditorium that we now have. So that's a work in progress, and I'll be talking with some interested people in the community and developing some ideas to bring forth to you and talking about how we might set that up as an advisory for next year as well. But just wanted to let the public know that that's on our radar, and if anybody has expertise or interest in this, just give us a call, and I'm sure there's a job. We want to engage as many people as we can in this, so let us know. Mr. Londa left, but I wanted to let everyone know that the Lunenburg Middle High School solar project was connected, is online, and generating, especially today, the sun came out, But it went online at 11 o'clock a.m. on June 1st, 2017. So we're saving money as we speak with the utilities again. So that's the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Now we're to the school building committee report. Jim, is that you? Oh, student representative? Oh, you can check that one. Student. Eliza.
Hi. So, as Superintendent Com said, we're kind of in the last hurrah of the year. Students are busy studying for finals, and luckily, although it's kind of frustrating, the weather hasn't been miserable, so all the students have been pretty comfortable. It hasn't been really hot. So last week, we had the student council elections, which are just the elections within the council, president, vice president. We have 2 secretaries, and then we have a treasurer. The new president is Christopher Tobin, so that's exciting. And then last week also wrapped up all spring sports. The girls lacrosse team made it to the quarterfinals and then lost against Wacona. But anyways, as graduation has been happening, people have been encouraged to create new traditions within the new building. And I know the seniors this year did the motorcade, which is they basically come in cars and then run around the buildings and spread cheer. But this year they...
That was the old tradition.
Yes, but this year they still did that, except they also went to the Turkey Hill School in the primary school, and I know I talked to a few of them. They all loved that, and I hope that the younger kids loved seeing them too. Bio MCAS was this week, and then next Thursday, finals begin, and then they will carry through the last week of school.
And the final schedule is online, right, on the website? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eliza. So now it's the school building committee report. Was there one meeting?
There hasn't been a meeting, and I have not been informed of any
None?
No.
Okay.
updates.
Okay. So we're on to new business. Improvement plans and handbooks for the high school and middle school. Mr. Santry's going first.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight to talk about our school improvement plan, our parent and student handbooks. But before I start, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank my school advisory council this year. Just a wonderful group of people that have been very supportive, provide me some really good feedback and where we'd like to go as a school district, as a school community. And I've been really lucky this year that several of my members have been, they've had 2-year appointments. So they've been able to help me develop a plan through our transition back to a traditional middle school and to our 6 through 12 building, and then they've actually been able to sit in with me and see if the goals that we developed are being implemented. So it's just a wonderful group of people to work with, and I hope I can continue to work with some of them in the future. So I'm going to start by reviewing the school improvement plan. The advisory council always helps me in developing that, but this is kind of a unique year that I haven't been a part of as a principal before, because the district is now developing a new strategic plan for the next 5 years. So we're developing a new mission and a new vision statement. So our school committee had talked, and we thought it was so important that our school improvement plan be aligned with the new strategic plan that the district is creating, that we continue to work off the school improvement plan that we have created for 2016 and 17. Now, most of those goals and objectives are 2-year objectives, so some of those that we haven't achieved yet, but we will wait for the school committee to approve the new strategic plan, and then next year with my new school advisory council, we'll be able to align to what that new strategic plan is. And I think us working off of that plan that we have through our transition year and into our next year is going to be totally appropriate. Our first goal on our school improvement plan, it was incorporating the technology in the new 21st century building, and I think that we've done an outstanding job doing that. We have 2 Chromebook carts for each grade level in the middle school. We have interactive projectors that teachers have available to them. So some of the things that we've done is we've just provided professional development to our teachers in the beginning of the year to show them how to use this new technology in this new building. It's been wonderful. So once a month during faculty meeting, we actually have teachers model some of the web-based instruments and tools that they've been using. They've been using Google Classroom, they've been using Google Docs, they've been using different types of things like Quizlet and Kahoot and things that are really student engaging, and it's just been wonderful through my observations to go into classrooms and seeing those Chromebooks being used and seeing those interactive projectors being used. So when we create our new school improvement plan, I'll report out on all of the goals that we had, and then that will also include the information for our 2017 MCAS that comes out when it is made available in September of this year. And that's just really another testament to how we were able to implement our technology this year, is that 6 through 8 went online testing for MCAS. And with students and staff, it went rather seamlessly. So lots of the concerns where students weren't going to be able to articulate what they would as well on paper and pen, and just talking to students and talking to teachers, that really wasn't the case. Or we were concerned that students wouldn't be able to navigate with the tools that they were given on the MCAS test. That wasn't the case. They know more about it than we do, and all we had to do was put the Chromebook in front of them and say, this is what, here's your username and password, go for it. And it was just really a seamless transition. I'm very interested to see what our scores are this year, and what our student growth percentiles look like, and just what the state's going to do with those, so that when we are developing that new plan, that we incorporate those into it also. So is there any questions about the school improvement, or what our plan is for our school improvement plan?
Oh, I think it's similar to Miss Champagne's, where it was a 2-year plan because it was a transition year.
Yes.
So it's very similar.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So as far as my parent and student handbook, it was a year ago that we did some extensive work on that for our school advisory council, that we kind of revamped. Brendan Kibbe was instrumental in kind of organizing it, putting links on, and, we went into our transitional year. We're going to see how this works, how is our code of conduct going to work when we're sharing with the 612? Are we going to have to make any amendments? Are we going to have to make any changes? I'm here to report that I think our code of conduct, our student and parent handbook work well. So the minor changes we have made are changes around, the prices of lunch that was incorrect, and we did some things around our honor roll for 6th grade. We wanted to update those for the student and parent. There was some information that our school nurse had changed as far as some policies that they had worked on in the health group that they're working with, but as a whole, no major changes to the way that we're running things at the middle school, or any major changes to the student or the parent handbook.
Nope, I didn't see any.
I just had actually a couple of notes on the handbooks.
Sure.
So on the student handbook, this first paragraph says it's a place to learn how to make choices. I wonder if we could add some language in there that would kind of tie into the A.J. Robbins Memorial. Right choices have consequences, and that there are consequences to whatever choice you make. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to add some language there to kind of tie that in.
Okay.
It's very minor.
Would you want that for this year, or I know that you're going to be a member of my school advisory council in September, maybe we could incorporate some of those changes for that?
As well. And then the other note that I had is the bullets for the responsibilities, the student responsible and teacher and parent. They didn't seem to be aligned between the two documents.
Okay.
As they were out of order. It might be an opportunity to align those as well. But if we can revisit that again as part of the advisory council as well.
Great. Okay. Any other questions?
looks great.
Yeah.
Still recovering from DC, but it was a wonderful trip.
Tell us about DC. How was that?
DC was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. The kids weren't good, they were great. I mean, just, you bring 100 kids to DC, I'm going to deal with some things as principal, but on the whole, they were respectful and kind and able to follow directions. And, I had been about 8 years ago, and I'm like, I'm going to have to drag some kids out of bed, or I'm going to have to tell them to quiet down, or they're not going to be here on time. It was not the case. It was like, okay, 6 o'clock wake up, they were all up. Okay, we're leaving at 7 o'clock, 6:45, they were waiting for us to go. It was just wonderful. I just think that how mature they were and their development, it was just wonderful going to see the memorials, the Smithsonian, the semi-formal dance was wonderful. We had 2 other schools with us, and they just really enjoyed mingling. There was no problems. We had a minor elevator incident, but besides that, everything was fine.
Yeah, I had only heard good, positive feedback from parents who had kids on that trip.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So what are you going to do next year when Mrs. McCullough isn't here to help?
I have a couple people lined up that were going to take the stipend for the DC trip. We're always looking for volunteers to come and chaperone, so.
I don't chaperone.
Paul missed the last one he's going at. He's seen it for this one.
Three of us
He
have
waited
8th
too long.
graders.
I know.
Right? Yeah, 3 of us have 8th graders next year.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were talking about it earlier.
Jim was awesome.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Thank you, Tim.
Mr. Spadafino.
Good evening. Yeah, last year was an interesting year because we ended so early that we had graduation, and then I went on the DC trip last year with the 8th grade because it was the last time they were in the building. And it was a great trip, but it was a lot of work, and I don't necessarily miss. Similar echo with Mr. Santry said, had a great school council group, really people who were invested in it. We did some good work this year. There were a couple of meetings that ended up getting missed because of snow days. They ended up being there were, I think, 2 of them that we had snow days on, so things got shuffled around a little bit. They did a nice job. There weren't a lot of handbook additions, and I'll go into school improvement after handbook because then I want to kind of move into NEASC a little bit and give you some information on NEASC. So the handbook, there was only 1 addition for this year, and it was around security cameras, and I believe that that's a district-wide type push. So the only updates will be in staff, calendar, things of that nature, and then adding this surveillance camera system, just being noted and being there for everybody to know about, so as a district policy. And then shifting to this school improvement plan, like Mr. Santry said, it was a 2-year plan that we did last year, and it kind of covered the transition. The first goal, in a nutshell, is to increase student achievement. I think we've done a nice job. We'll see with MCAS scores, like Mr. Santry said. We'll have all that information come the fall, so we'll be able to see where we are, because it's always kind of a tough thing to put in here when you're always a year behind getting the results. So that'll be good to see where we are. We're still paper and pencil at the high school in 10th grade, and I don't think we're due to go online for another couple of years. So we'll see where those scores are. Goal 2 was around the transition with the new building, with middle school being part of our culture. Things have gone as good as we could have asked, I believe. Our high school students have been respectful, have been really great with our younger students. Our younger students seem to, that their paths rarely cross during the school day, so we've done a good job in keeping those schools separate. But when they do cross, there's really no interactions, unless it's a younger brother or a sister or a friend of a sibling, that they say hi, but there's nothing else that has happened that's been of negative consequence. Buses, same thing on the buses, so we've been real happy with that. We're starting to do meetings between the vertical team meetings between the two buildings. We've started that in recent months, and that'll continue next year as one of our goals. So, and then goal 3 was to increase student and parent engagement, and then also with technology, using technology, and then also technology within the building, gaining our skills in the classrooms and whatnot. And our teachers have led professional development on things that they've learned, and using the interactive whiteboards and using the technology that's at our disposal. Students have been great with the Chromebooks. We're 10 through 12, all students have Chromebooks. Hoping in the near future to get a 9 through 12 model. Kids have been great with them. We've had, occasionally they've been damaged or had to be replaced. But kids have done a good job of taking care of them. The one thing is the cords, the power cords. Occasionally those kids are missing those cords. So, we're working on them all the time, but it's been really great. So that's where we are with our school improvement plan. We'll look at it in the fall once we have the strategic plan from the district. But it also kind of is at a good time, the strategic district plan and NEASC. So we're up for our NEASC visit, our 10-year visit in the year 2020. And that's always a big thing for high schools, for your accreditation, to make sure that that we stay accredited and that we put our students in the best place. So a few years back, we were on warning because of the building and the issues that curriculum-wise and instruction-wise that we were lacking because of the building and the technology. And with the new building, that's been addressed, and we're on full go for accreditation. So like I said, the process has been revamped, and we'll be the first group or set of groups to go through this new process, which is kind of exciting. Like I said, it'll be, I don't know if I said it, a 3-year process instead of 2 years that it's been in the past. So we'll start it actually in the fall. And then there are actually 2 visits that NEASC comes out and does 2 visits instead of the one that they had. So they do one, the midpoint or a little bit earlier to see where you are in the process, which is kind of nice, and they can point you in a different direction if they don't think you're either collecting the right information, or maybe what you're picturing as something you need to target, they see something a little bit different and can maybe change some thoughts. So on that visit, there'll be 2 or 3 people that come out to see the school, and that's only a one night, 2-day visit. And then in the 3rd year is the big visit, and that's where we have about 6 to 10 people come out, and then they'll address the different standards and see how we're doing. They said they're going to spend more time in the classrooms, seeing what's going on, which is good because I think they'll see some real good stuff. There's new standards that are going to be coming out. There's only 5 instead of the 7 that we had been assessed on in the past. So those aren't due out until the end of June, so we'll get a look at what those look like. And in the past, there were 55 indicators under all of those things, so we won't have to look at all the indicators and kind of check boxes and then report out on those. They're going to be more global things that you have to write about, and I think it can be a more reflective process. So we'll be putting together 2 committees. One's a steering committee, and that consists of 2 or 3 people plus me. And then a self-reflection committee, which will be about 6 to 10 teachers, plus additional stakeholders such as a school committee member, central office personnel, parents, students, community members will be part of this self-reflection committee. There'll be a couple of surveys that go out that we'll be able to, that are kind of set questions, but then schools can ask the community or the parents and teachers and faculty specific, school-specific questions that you want to have answers to. So that'll be at the beginning of the process and toward the end of the process. So the self-reflection committee will survey and gather information, and that information will be used to create a school growth plan. So the school growth plan and the school improvement plan kind of go very nicely together. And I think that is a huge change and shift from the old process where you're just trying to make sure you're hitting these standards and indicators instead of it really being about what you think you need to do as a school community to improve and what are your goals. And I think that buy-in with the faculty and community as people sitting at that table will be more impactful and more positive, give more ownership to everybody involved in the process. It's not just that you're doing it for NEASC, you're doing it for Lunenburg. So I see that as the big shift, and NEASC has listened because there's been a lot of these people schools saying the same thing. So they've opened their doors and opened their ears, and they're listening. So I'll have more information this summer as things come out. But I went to a workshop there with other schools and districts that are going through, that are in the same boat as we are. So it was nice to get that introduction and to see, and to get to meet some of the other principals that are going through it too. So we can be in touch with each other. So that's my report. Any questions?
Any questions? No?
Good.
No.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So we have to approve motion. to
The
approve
handbooks.
and
Yeah.
the plans, or just the handbooks?
Just the handbooks.
We need to make a motion. I need to take a motion to approve the handbooks.
I'll make a motion to approve the FY18 LHS and LMS student handbooks as presented this evening.
I second.
On
Parent.
and the parent handbook.
Student parent handbooks.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Shall I do the bus driver thing then?
Oh, yeah.
Like we skipped right over that. We're going to acknowledge bus driver appreciation. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So I'm going to read a little certificate honoring the bus drivers of the Lunenburg School District. Whereas the utmost concern of all residents of the community is the safety and well-being of their students, and whereas school bus transportation is 8 times safer than traveling in a passenger vehicle, and whereas school bus drivers are required to undergo extensive training to improve their knowledge and skills as a way to ensure the safety and well-being of students, and whereas the position of a school bus driver requires tremendous responsibility in transporting Massachusetts students through inclement weather conditions and various traffic situations, and whereas school bus drivers provide first aid, counseling, and care for the special needs of children, and whereas school bus drivers fulfill the trust that the citizens of Lunenburg have instilled in them by monitoring suspicious activity and ensuring the safety of the students at their bus stops. Now therefore be it resolved that the Lunenburg School Committee extends its appreciation for the hard work and dedication of the school bus drivers of the district, and be it further resolved that the Lunenburg School Committee proclaims June 7th, 2017 to be Bus Driver Appreciation Day, and strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our bus drivers for their dedication and devotion to their work. It was adopted the 7th day of June, 2017. So I thank you. My children travel on the bus every day.
And I know that PTO was at, I believe, Turkey Hill Elementary School this afternoon and had tokens of appreciation for all the bus drivers. So for a lot of our families, this didn't get announced before, but every day can be Bus Driver Appreciation Day.
And should be Bus Driver Appreciation Day.
Absolutely, because we do appreciate the care and attention that they provide the students. It's really important that our students start and end the day well, and that is on the bus for many, many of them. So, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to get an update on the strategic plan?
Yes, the Strategic Planning Committee, the second phase that started working on the overall plan for 5 years, the major goals, those kinds of aspects, have completed their work. The consultant has put together a draft that is back out to that committee. I also have shared that with the school committee as well. They're seeking input from those groups at this point in time, and we are on target to have the consultant on the 21st come back to that particular meeting and present that final draft, and then the school committee will have the opportunity over the summer to finalize that, and we'll have a new strategic plan and a district improvement plan in place as school begins next fall. And it's been a very great process, a very busy one. It started with the visioning, and the vision statement is also part of that, that has been incorporated, all the concepts that that visioning team worked into a rather comprehensive statement. It's not just a couple words that you memorize and say off real quickly. It's a two-page document that talks about what our schools will look like in the future. And as we move to actualizing the strategic plan. So we look forward to sharing that with the public as we wrap up this year and kicking it off next year with our strategic planning and a new district improvement plan. So just an update.
And I did read over that draft. It was very impressive, very comprehensive. Congratulations to everybody who was involved in that. One thing I would like to see, and if you can take this back to the consultant, is a measurement of how we can gauge progress against the plan.
Great.
Otherwise, it's a lot of nice words, but it's very, very well put together, though. I would just like to see that one piece. Other than that, it was great.
Great. Thank you.
I believe we have a donation to accept.
We do. In order to provide some scholarship funding for Nature's Classroom, there's a family, Jennifer and David Prokofiew, who are donating $435 to help with a scholarship for students to attend Nature's Classroom. So we wanted to acknowledge that donation for, this will be for the Nature's Classroom trip next fall, is what it would be.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So certainly acknowledge that with our thanks.
Yeah. Absolutely. Next time I see them, too. Okay, and we're going to discuss a plan for residency review?
In talking with the secretaries in terms of wanting to do a comprehensive job with this, and also wanting to be mindful of how busy everyone's lives are, the plan that we're proposing to the school committee in terms of ongoing checks around residency, that can happen at any time that we have questions. If we have concerns, for any reason, maybe somebody's called, or maybe the student is talking about no longer living in Lunenburg, but living someplace else. There's all kinds of things that would prompt us to reinvestigate the residency questions. But what we're planning or want to propose in addition to that is during the transitions from building to building, so it would be grade 3, because everybody produces it when they provide 3 forms of ID and residency ID when they register for kindergarten, or when they register in any other grade if they're just joining us. But we're suggesting that in grades 3, 6, and 9, that be produced again, first only if the property owner name doesn't match up with the student name on the property list that we get from the town. So rather than ask a lot of people who continue to own the homes that are on file, we'd like to go to those property lists. I'm sure these are all in databases, so what we intend to do is be able to set those databases up so it will be a fairly quick matching exercise. Any of those that are not matching up, then those individuals will be asked to establish their residency again using the 3 forms. We have students that also attend under what we call affidavit of residency, and these are situations where frequently what happens is you have family members that are living here in the community, but the parents or grandparents may be the residents, and all the documentation for residency they produce to us. But then there's an affidavit that they sign that says basically the child's here because this is where they're living, and it's not just to attend school. And our legal counsel developed that form several years ago to address these kinds of situations. That form also says that if it's discovered that that's not the case, that there's a mechanism where retroactively we charge tuition for people if they weren't representing the facts with regard to that. So those affidavits need to be updated as well at this year, on these years. And finally, for rentals, if folks are renting, because it's not going to match up with the property owner kind of information that we have, those folks will need to reestablish that, but it would just be at 3, 6, and 9, or if there's a question. So that's the proposal, and talking to particularly Mrs. Clooney at the Turkey Hill Elementary School. Mrs. Galloway does this every year at the primary school, and also talking to the ladies in the office there at the high school who will be working with the middle and the high school, the grades 6 and 9. So that's our recommendation.
Okay. What do you think? I think it's a good start.
I think in the interest of knowing that there will be additional manpower hours needed, that this is, a good place to start. And then obviously if there's, individual concern, to explore that there, and that, that doesn't always necessarily fall to secretarial staff. But I think this is an excellent start.
Yeah. I think this will give us a baseline, and we'll have an idea as we do this about the time involved, but also if we're seeing discrepancy, if we're seeing changes. And once we have that baseline, then we may talk about, does it need to be expanded? Do we do it more randomly? But and I've talked to the secretaries, and we also will make sure that they have adequate assistance to get this done, because there's a lot of things that are going on during the summer, and we don't want people to feel like they can't do this and do it well. So we'll be working to make sure that we have a solid logistical plan for actual implementation. But I wanted to get this out to our parents because there are some people who are going to be asked to have produced additional documents before the end of this, before school starts next year. So we want to make sure that they have the time to do that, because that will be critical for enrollment come the fall.
Just question, have you identified a place in the budget where you could pull those additional hours for additional staff to support?
We have identified some money in choice that we'll use to do this.
Okay.
Yep.
My other question is, thinking back to when everyone was entering kindergarten and how that went when you showed up with your, proof of residency. I believe that was in person. And so just thinking about, as we're doing this for grades 3, 6, and 9, and having parents show up, just making sure that we're cognizant of having those hours be, suitable for not only the secretarial staff that's working and doing that job, but also for the parents and families who need to show up with that information.
Right.
Because obviously, even though it's summer and their children might be out of school, that doesn't necessarily mean that parents aren't working. And so I just want to make sure that the residents of Lunenburg understand that this is something that we're doing and that we're asking for, because we want to make sure that, we have this information. It's not to inconvenience anybody, and we just want to check in to
Right.
make sure that we have the right information that we need for all the students.
And with our new systems, parents have many more options in terms of providing this via PDF and uploading it to us as well.
Okay, so that's going to be an option, so they don't have
You
to.
know, the birth certificate and those kinds of things become more important on those initial, the kindergarten registration. But a lot of those things get uploaded even before that. And so there are some options, but I agree, we need to be mindful and maybe have at least 1 or 2 evening hours available for parents to be able to come, or later, stay in later on some evenings, so parents have time to get home from work and get in to see us. So.
I just want to clarify, though, this isn't going to be for all 3rd, 6th, and 9th. It's just going to be for the things that we've identified.
It will be for all students going into 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade, but not all parents. If the matchup comes from the property rolls with the address for the students, they won't be asked to submit that.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
I just want to make sure it's clear.
No, I understand.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. If those things align, then we won't ask them to redocument all of that.
Right. Will we be sending out notifications, or they are just going to have to do this on their?
I'll be getting some information together just to let people know we're going to be doing this. And there are at least one group of folks, those folks on affidavits that we know will be required to do it.
And we'll know very soon if how it works.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. And now we have the handbooks, added items for...
Right, and one of them's been mentioned with now having the security cameras in all the buildings. We felt it important to have a unified statement there that references our policy around that. So that was provided. A surveillance camera system has been installed to enhance the safety and security of students, staff, and community members who visit the school while diminishing the potential for personal and district loss or destruction of property. The cameras are installed in public areas only. So it goes on to cite... Sorry.
It's okay.
It goes on to cite the policy that talks about this is not public viewing for public viewing, the cameras. There's only limited access to that. We do have the capacity to share those when necessary. However, we also block out the faces of students. If we were to show something to a parent, the other students' faces would be blocked out. Mrs. Champagne also indicated that she realized after she had presented her handbook that the report cards for all grade levels should be the 4 quarters. I think 3rd grade.
Yeah, she had it different.
Exactly. Yeah. So she's amending that. And we've also taken what's in the high school handbook around attendance and put it in all the handbooks. Mrs. Finch, our school nurse and nursing coordinator, did a master teacher project because chronic students with chronic absenteeism, there's a significant impact on learning from that. We want to make sure that we have in place the policy in the handbooks emphasizing that attendance on a regular basis is important, how we get access if due to illness, children need to be out, calling in. So the high school contained basically the language that we wanted to have appear. It was somewhat surprising to find out that some of our handbooks didn't have the attendance piece in it at all. And so we wanted to make sure that that is in all the handbooks, and we concluded that having it uniform across all the handbooks was an important thing as well.
The other thing, and I know we talked about this at the last meeting, is having the Lunenburg Primary School to make sure that they had the list of the public complaints the process of complaints, and we did bring it up at the primary school council meeting last week. Their section on that is at the end of their handbook, and now that I've gone through and seen the high school and the middle school, and knowing that the elementary school is all in the front, I would make that recommendation that we try to be uniform across all the handbooks and have it in the front of the primary school handbook, so that across the board, that information is in the exact same place, no matter what school you're at, just like all the other information that's standard across the handbooks, just because I think it just makes for a, smooth transition, and for people to be able to find it and point at us to be able to point it out. So just one additional thought.
Yeah, I did talk to Mrs. Bladell earlier. She did mention, or remind me that it was at the end. I had read so much.
Exactly.
I did get confused.
She did, and I pointed it out at the meeting too, and she showed me at the end, and it is indeed there, but when I was reminded tonight that the setup of it is really nice to have it.
I think last time we did talk about consistency between the handbooks as well.
So that is, I would say that would be a suggestion.
And I remember thinking when that came up, when you mentioned that, Mr. Lefek, I said, I remember when we put that into the handbooks, we made, similar to this, it was several years ago, but it has gotten moved around, so we can move it up front where everybody can find it easily.
And perhaps next year, one thing that can be looked at, even by the individual school councils, is the other schools' handbooks. So how can they standardize some of the most basic and pertinent information? And whether it's at the beginning or wherever it's deemed best to place it, just because we are one district, it may be 4 different buildings, but putting out documents that are uniform and just leaving the things that are unique for each school.
Great idea. Later.
So now we have the school department line item budget to review. And approve, right?
So do you want to take action on those additions that we did?
Do we want to approve the handbooks, the additions?
I know you approved the changes before, but I didn't know if you wanted to vote to put the security cameras, the attendance, and then the placement of the complaint process being uniform.
I would make a motion to accept those modifications as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now it's the line item budget.
Right, because we want to get that, at town meeting, of course, the bottom line budget has been voted. That's what the school committee voted to take to town meeting as well. But it is that time of year where we're ready to start ordering for next year. And so it's important for us to have the line item budget set and ready to go. At this point in time, I'm pleased to let you know that there's been a couple changes within the special education budget. In fact, when I first provided information on this, I said we're going from 18 to 12 students that are placed out of district. So this year we had 18. Next year we're anticipating 12, but then Mrs. Hanscom updated that and said that it will be 11. That we are anticipating to be placed out of district. Now, what's happened in the interim is there's been some moves of students. There's been a couple students who have gone from an out-of-district placement, and their parents have requested to put them on a homeschool program, and that's their right. And so that happened, and we've also returned several students to the district, particularly into our ACE program. Miss Kim Jones and all the paraprofessionals, Mrs. Hanscom and our BCBA, Mrs. Young, who works in that program as well, have really done just an amazing job of developing a program for those students who are 18 to 22, working on being community members, being out in the workforce. Some students are attending the community college up in Gardner, Mount Wachusett Community College. So all of those kinds of aspects of moving on into adulthood after graduation and receiving a certificate of completion at that point in time. So this program, we anticipate next year will have 13 students in it. We anticipate, in fact, we are going to add a teacher to that program. The students' needs are very diverse as well. The majority of the students are going out with job coaches and into the community doing various things, but some of the students spend the majority of their day and time there at the Thomas E. Passios. That program is actually a substantially separate program and day school. It's considered a day school. We went through the process of getting approval from the state to do that, and it's a very appropriate place to have that program as opposed to in the high school, because the students are finished with high school. They're coming to that program and they're moving on and being supported in accordance with their needs and the regulations as well. The teacher that we're adding to that program is actually a reassignment of a position that we had to achieve programs over at the Turkey Hill Elementary School. Our population, the numbers have decreased there, and we anticipate that they will remain low for another couple years. And so we're reassigning that position, not necessarily the teacher, but that position to that particular building. I was talking to Mrs. Luck, who had inquired if we had started to hire new teachers for our retirees, and was explaining how Mrs. Dimatopoulos's retirement ended up a position at the middle school, an 8th grade science position. So as I was going through that, I was thinking it will be very helpful for everyone if I create kind of a chart that we can share, because we are moving positions and sometimes people around in order to meet the needs of our students. So a retirement at one grade level may not be filled at that grade level. It may actually end up being filled where we have higher enrollment and need additional teachers. But we'll try to track that so everybody knows how it goes. But this particular one is a pretty straight line in terms of taking a position, instead of having two substantially separate programs and therefore two teachers at Turkey Hill Elementary School, moving one of those positions over to the ACE program at TCP. So when we look at the numbers right now at this time, because we're still finalizing a lot of these placements, we are recommending that that line be adjusted, the private tuition line be adjusted by $120,000. We are also recommending that at this point in time, instead of decreasing the paraprofessionals by 4, that we decrease by 2. And those will both be handled through attrition in the ranks, so nobody will be laid off as a result of this. We've moved $80,000 into health insurance to cover the paraprofessionals' health insurance, those additions, as well as one of the other things that we're doing with the funds that are no longer needed for special education, and that's responding to a need that we've been trying to respond to for a couple of years now, and that's lowering class size at our primary school. I do apologize for this, but at our primary school, we intend to add another first grade teacher. And that will bring our numbers down into the high teens, up to 20. So we're seeing some growth in first grade because Twin City has closed, and there were several kindergarten students from Lunenburg attending. So it's a good thing we're doing this, because we've already seen, I think, 4 of the 6 families enroll. So those are the main changes that we've made. And the rest of the line items remain primarily the same. The only other changes that we've made are that the $70,000 that was in contracted grounds. And again, Mrs. Luck said, tell me about this number at our budget hearing, and I said, well, it's actually a mistake, but it's a good mistake because 36,000 of that will now address the capital plan, the computers out of the capital plan. So $36,000 of that $70,000 in that line when we were going through the budget process have been moved to the computer line, computer acquisition line. 31,450, I believe, stays in that line. We've also moved 6K into contracted business, and the 6K is for an audit of the student activity accounts. Well, we finally got the quote for that. It may not be that high. That's the maximum quote, and that the audits of those student activity counts need to be done. It was an exception that we've had for a couple of years now on the town's audit report as well as the school audit report. We're glad to be at a place where we can make sure that this gets, we have a plan to address that, and we have a price to address that, and that's 6K. So an additional 6K out of that 70K went to that business line, contractual business line, to hire the auditor. And the remaining, there was a couple hundred that remained as a result of that, and that was put into health insurance line, so, at this point in time. So those are the changes that we did. We'll post this up at the website, but we are recommending, I am recommending approval of the line item budget at this point in time. That allows us to get it set at Town Hall, and July 1, start the ordering process, so the materials and supplies and other acquisitions that we're going to be getting, we get them before the kids get here, so we have them to do the job they are intended to do. So that's my recommendation.
So I'll take a motion to approve the line item changes.
Motion to approve FY18 school budget line item budget as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Yep. So it's time for public comment again. No? Are you sure? Do you have anything to say about the graduation and how lovely it was?
Not that others telling you what to say.
We were all there. You were there, I was there, Wendy was there. It was most beautiful. So many moving speeches. I was brought to tears several times.
They did an excellent job.
They did.
What I really liked was they all had something different to say. I was thinking, did they get together and work on these speeches together? Because there was a lot of variety.
Yeah.
That was...
Yeah, they didn't just say the same thing. There was no redundancy really at all. Yeah.
I love the songs.
I know. I had no idea they did that. Yeah, that was impressive. Yeah, Mary, you were there too. Yeah. It was
we were
beautiful.
actually sitting, I had the thought, Mr. Mackin put it online after, but we were sitting,
Yeah,
so I remember I
footprint.
parked last year in relationship to TCP, so I was like, oh, my car would be there, like, we're sitting in the old building.
Yeah, we were sitting in the footprint, with the footprint of the old building. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah.
It was.
And a great acknowledgement to the class of 2017 for their continued love and support and keeping the memory of their classmate Connor Lawrence alive.
Yep.
He's been with them every step of the way from when they were this big all the way up to their floats and baccalaureate. It was very, very touching to hear him so present in the graduation ceremony as well.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any reports? FinCom.
I don't think they've met.
I don't think so. PTO, did they meet?
They did
They did on Monday, right?
They did.
But I don't think Meredith was there. Capital planning hasn't met. Paxel?
Nope.
Hasn't been anything.
No? Lifelong learning?
Not since
Not since you
presentation.
School councils, anyone?
We had our last primary school council meeting last Wednesday. They're wrapping things up, the end of the year, lots of celebrations and activities going on over there, so that was exciting to hear about. We just sort of reviewed and went over what would be happening for next year, who was going to stay, and what the shift was for everybody. But overall, just touching base with how things are progressing and assessments and things like that getting done for the end of the year. So they're on course. Everyone's excited.
Good. Policy sub, we haven't met? Wellness advisory, Wendy?
Not since our last meeting.
No. Start time hasn't met?
I did want to let the committee, subcommittee know that I was going to ask Mr. Spadafino to maybe put out one more push, and the surveys, it's very positive when we go online and look at that.
Yeah.
I'll get that initial information out to you. Some very good feedback around liking that start time. But I was thinking that one more opportunity for those that may not have responded would be good. So tomorrow I'll ask Mr. Spadafino if he'll just put that out there one more time, and then we can see that data at the next meeting.
Okay.
I think.
Yep. Strategic and visiting, I think you did that already.
Yep.
And topics for future discussion. Do we have anything? We talked about the calendar, our calendar.
So when we're planning for fall is the time to have workshop in the fall, yes.
For the calendar?
Yes.
For the school calendar.
Not our calendar.
But we're going to talk about our calendar, the next meeting calendar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I meant school calendar.
Yeah. Okay, so.
We wanted to have that as a work session using the interest-based kind of protocol.
Awesome.
We're going to have
we could
Mary
ask
Ellen
Mary Ellen to come back for that.
What do you think?
We could do it. Is she going to charge us?
So.
No, but is this something that we have identified a spot in the budget to be able to bring her back in?
We could, yeah.
No, it's a fantastic.
And that way all the participants can participate.
Right.
I mean, we definitely have people that could facilitate that, but I know when you're facilitating that...
You're driving your opinion.
Well,
when you're facilitating, you really can't be involved.
Right.
So when you're facilitating, you really can't be a part of the conversation. So if you have somebody who can be the facilitator, so I'm sure that if she wasn't available, one of the other members of the bargaining committee would be happy to facilitate and just not be a part of the conversation, but facilitate the conversation. So.
That allows everyone to.
I'm speaking for.
That allows everyone to be part of the conversation.
And myself and Mr. Mackin, if you're listening.
Okay, so now we're going to move to go to executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining and not to return to public session according to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3.